So as it's nearly spring, I decided to go to the spring of the Thames. We're going to do it with wild camping. We're going to walk all 200 miles, hopefully. Most famously, Clockwork Orange.
The worst inland maritime disaster in UK history. You probably have never even heard about it.
So there. And I've got a new pack. So this is where the north-south Woolwich rivalry starts. Here. Oh London, what have you become? Alas, poor Limebike, I knew it well. This is one of the places that pirates are hanged. Life's a beach, and then it brings you bricks.
So if you want to follow me up the river, please hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, or share with your friends because it helps the channel.
This line. Strictly it's the Elizabeth line, but locals call it the Liz line.
This is the train to Abbey Wood.
We now got the day hikes section. I've got my little pack, which I'll talk about in a bit. It's a bit later than I would like. I had to avoid the peak time. It's much more expensive though. Kind of arriving about 11ish, it feels like half the day is gone when you're used to walking at 6 or 7 in the morning. And this is Thamesmead, and this is Thamesmead, where lots of things have been filmed around here. Beautiful thing, which is one of my favourites. Most famously, Clockwork Orange. But the reason why I'm being a bit stealthy about this, apparently the locals don't like filming. Well, I'm sure they probably don't care about people on a mobile phone, but I don't know. I understand that. My maternal grandmother lived on an estate like this in Sheffield called Park Hill, which is quite famous. It has even the same walkways in the sky. It still has some of those, but then people started throwing TVs off them, and then washing machines, and then people. The same thing kind of happened here, so they demolished a lot of them. But the reason for here was kind of more obvious because of the Great Breach, which I talked in the previous video. 53 floods. All the housing is raised up. I mean, the 60s and 70s were full of estates like this. Kind of a very brutalist way of living. It's funny that there's a graffiti wall here now, when in Misfits, the Channel 4 series, you'll recognise this building. They were on a youth scheme to clean off graffitis. That's quite funny. I mean, that's the funny thing. When this place was featured back in the 1970s in Clockwork Orange, it was seen as this futuristic, utopian ideal that quickly became less idealistic, going a bit south. There's a lot of development here now. There's a library, and it's a really amazing library. Hey, we're now having a faction war between geese. There are lots of geese on the site. Shush. So it's a lot better place now, I think. They seem to have demolished the bit that everyone remembers. I can't show a picture of it. It's obviously copyright on Tavy Bridge, that walkway the gang in Clockwork Orange walked on. I think it's gone. I can't find it. Maybe it's somewhere else in the state. Thamesmead is massive. It's Thamesmead West, Thamesmead East, Thamesmead South, which is here. It goes all the way to Woolwich almost. This place has been a bit abandoned for transport interlinks. It was supposed to be a Jubilee line station. Even when they did the Elizabeth line, they ended up at Abbey Wood. They didn't actually stop here, which is quite, it's Abbey Wood's on the edge of it. But I'm a bit surprised that they didn't put a station in the middle of Thamesmead. It felt like it was just shipping off a whole bunch of people from Woolwich and other places. It was seen as shunting people off, like many sink estates, right into the edge. The housing is cheap here because generally people don't want to live this far out. Oh, and yes, we'll see how waterproof these are still. Very old shoes, actually. I don't know if these are a decade old, or at least these are North Face Hedgehog, I think 11s. I forget which number they are. They're a bit like the Saucony. The later versions sucked, but people actually said so I never bought them. They're very heavier than modern shoes, maybe a little bit hotter, less breathable, incredibly grippy. The problem is everyone says about, vibrant soles, we want vibrant soles. They wear down in no time if you walk on tarmac. As we found with Saucony, they have to mess with the formula and make it way worse. Usually, cost-cutting exercises, sadly. I found that with Reebok and Adidas. Finally back on the Thames grind. 2 days since I left here. A rest day and charge my batteries and change my shoes from those squeaky horrible ones. It's now 12:30, see how far we get today. Deptford 10 miles, that's where I came from, or partly. And 7 miles to Greenwich. It's been good to do Greenwich today.
This is Margaret Ness, otherwise known as Tripcock Point. This lonely part of the Thames has witnessed to one of the worst UK maritime disasters, and you probably have never even heard about it. I featured Rocherville Gardens in the second video of this series and how steamships brought tens of thousands of people there to visit the lost pleasure gardens. There's a tragedy connected to its downfall. SS Princess Alice was one of those steamers. On the 3rd of September 1878, she was heading up to Woolwich Pier, bringing back hundreds of people from a moonlight visit to the gardens. Also coming down the river was the collier ship Bywell Castle. Around 7:30 PM, just past Tripcock Point, tragedy struck. Bywell Castle split the steamer in half, sending many hundreds of people into the dark water. It sank within 2 minutes. 600 to 700 people died. There was no passenger list. The worst inland maritime disaster in UK history. What made it worse? 75 million imperial gallons of sewage had just been pumped into the river, so they drowned in raw sewage. And some of those that survived died later of that exposure. Some bodies were never found. The official inquiry found that Princess Alice took the wrong line up the river, although that was disputed since the captain of the Princess Alice went down with the ship, and the coroner's inquest actually found Bywell Castle more culpable. We'll never exactly know. For me, it's an eerie echo of the 1989 Marchioness disaster, which I remember well, a pleasure ship hit by a dredger in the dark. On the positive side, changes were made which affected the River Thames dramatically, building the sewage plants at Cross Ness rather than dumping it in the river, the sludge being transported to the sea, and Met Police getting their own steam rescue boats. Sadly, the plaque that was here is now faded and unreadable, so you'd likely never know about it. That's why I missed it on the walk, even though, as a shipwreck freak, I was well aware of this disaster.
That's low. I assume it's City Airport? I don't know. On the route of City Airport, that's someone coming into land. One of the things I wasn't expecting to do today is hill climbing, but I'm on Lookout Hill in Gallions Reach Park. It's one hell of a view. And that's where we're heading for, London. There's Canary Wharf. And I've got a new pack. It was only 10 quid at Go Outdoors. They're selling this as a 25L. I don't know if it is 25L. I mean, really, I'd say more 20, but it seems to be pretty robust. Nice padding on the back. I like the padding on the back. And interestingly, mesh pockets, stretchy mesh pockets, which you don't get on the Nepal. And what I like about this one is it has a selfie pocket. I asked the guy what it's for, because one's got this hole. I think actually it's for walking sticks, which you probably wouldn't use walking sticks with a day pack like this, but maybe. Yeah, I brought a bit too much stuff today. A puffy jacket, because I didn't know what the weather was going to do. I've got my lunch, cheese, bacon, and some rolls. But I've also brought my pot, so I could actually do a brew up here. There is some wind up here, but I think it's probably alright. I got plenty of fuel, more than enough for today. All my wet weather gear and all that sort of stuff in there, so yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's holding up pretty well. I asked the guy what this is for. Does anyone in the comments know what that's for? He said it's to attach a light. I've seen it on a few packs, and I'm like, okay, it's reflective, which I'm not happy about, and I don't really want to be reflective, really, but I'd say that the weird thing is that's more spec'd out than the Nepal 65 and their technicals pack. Oh, and 10 quid is the membership price, so of course it's really 15 quid. If you're not a member of Go Outdoors, it's actually 15 quid. As usual, they're not sponsoring me, so as I always say, or my new motto is, don't buy stuff you don't need. Reuse, recycle, repair. If in doubt, buy nothing. And today's fuel bottle is a hand gel bottle because I wanted something small. It actually works really well. But yeah, you just sort of squirt it in. So I'm going to make a chalky drink. Yay! On top of Old Smoky. No, it's kind of a bit smoky hazy today. London landmarks all have funny names. These are not the official names, but they become the names, and then I think the Shard might actually be called the Shard, but most of them they get the names, and then later, and then people then it's so ubiquitous that actually then they start using them. It's a beautiful day for a walk. Already nearly at Woolwich. That gun says it all. Yeah, we're at the Arsenal near Woolwich. People might know the football team, but this is the Arsenal as in where they used to make things like this. So, can I speak to your rent insurance? I've got a Gormley and some very big guns. I like big guns and I cannot lie. Actually, I don't really like big guns, but that is a big gun. It's a very big gun. Please keep off the cannon. It's not anything you hear every day, is it? But these guns are the kind of guns that were positioned around Erith to protect the docks, because you see the big markings, and this is a kind of big, massive gun that would have been positioned there. And something a bit more old-worldy. Ship cannons, I think. The tune? George. So, again, what have the locals got against that tower block? So this is where the north-south Woolwich rivalry starts. Here. Something a lot posher than I remember it. It was all kind of abandoned and windswept, whereas it's all very upscale now. With, Gormley sculptures and stuff like that. I expect it's because of this. If you've talked with me for very long about London, you'll have heard me talk about safety deposit boxes in the sky. Now, these kind of, what I've been calling on this walk, mud flats, derogatorily, they're propping up all over the riverside and they're pretty much constant from here on. Mostly not lived in. Some are. Most are just investment opportunities. A lot of oligarchs bought them. People who just don't live here bought them as investments or live there for only part of the year. So you can tell because you go to the centre of London, South Bank and places like here and Nine Elms, most of the lights are off. No one lives there. Part of the whole property boom in London, where it's like accommodation is horrendously expensive. It used to be as bad as Tokyo. London is still very difficult to live in. I'm on the edges, clinging on for dear life on the edges. Cranes everywhere. You'll notice that London is a skyline of cranes from all these buildings, and most of them are residential developments. They're as anemic and depressing as stuff like this. Yeah, they look quite nice, but these sort of very fortified spaces, they're not welcoming. Also, the people who live in them don't really use the local facilities. One of my favourite restaurants of all time closed down because people weren't living there. And especially with the pandemic, a lot of people don't go into, London on Friday or the weekend. So it's sort of, a lot of central London is dying in that sense. While they build more and more residential flats, so what are they going to do? Where are they going to go? The culture's slowly seeping out to the edges and other places, and all the artists went off to Berlin. So, yeah. And to give them credit, I suppose they have actually kept the Thames Path and the first few of the Thames Barrier. And that's actually Silvertown, but Tate and Lyle, because Tate and Lyle is sugar. And yeah, there's the city with the Thames Barrier, which is about a mile away. Wow, look at that take on. That's why City Airport is one of the scariest to climb very steeply. What have you got against Tate and Lyle? And Silvertown. Beautiful views. Of the river. And these were the Woolwich docks, or part of them. So There's not very much left, really. There's little bits, like there was some pools back there which I remember, which I was surprised still. Someone was fishing in them, which I was brilliant, because you weren't supposed to go in there. It's all coming back to me, which is quite weird. It's very weird. The thing that's nice is the Arts Cafe has a water tap, so if you're walking along here and they're open, apparently free Wi-Fi, pop in and get a water refill, and toilets as well, so recommended. You can hear me over the planes taking off from City Airport. This is the Thames Barrier. I think the biggest in Europe, one of the biggest in Europe, opened in 1982, at first used in 83. So there. It's all to do with the Great Breach, which I mentioned in the previous video, of 1953. So after that, the need was to build a protection system, a barrier against these big floods, but also let all the shipping in. It took them 30 years to sort it out, and it's a technological marvel, very hard to do and very expensive, but it has protected London for, well, over 40 years. There is actually a really nice park on the other side. You can't see it from here, which I took photographs of, and I actually visited there before I visited here. And the tunnel now goes through, which I'm pretty sure I didn't used to do that, because I had to walk miles that way along roads when I was doing this walk before. Oh, we have 180 miles to go. I thought it was a bit less than that. Oh. I said it was probably more than 200 miles. Alas, poor lime bike, I knew it well. A good thing to do to those horrible Uber bikes is throw them in the river. One of the golden, unspoilt beaches of London. Oh, okay. It is golden, though. Or is that another lime bike? Not only do they throw Uber motorbikes in there with all the gear, and probably the Uber driver as well, maybe. They do it with Uber Limebikes. I think that's about karma, really. It's quite weird, the contrast between going from, you know, luxury flats and, you know, posh high-rises like you can see in the distance, and sort of things like this, which is the lifeblood of the river and the history of the river. This is what gave people jobs, and it's how the river became a massive thoroughfare. To me, the lifeblood of the Thames is not luxury flats. That seems to be more stultifying. People might disagree and say they'd much rather have luxury flats than this, but I'm not sure, really. Once the industry is gone, you don't get it back, it all becomes Uber deliveries at 3 AM. Obviously this is where all the missing trolleys go to die. That's one hell of a collection. Why does a seafood disco have locks on the cooking things when artworks become completely useless? This is Boris's Dangleberry. I told you everything has kind of like funny names. This is the cable car. Very expensive, complete white elephant. Is it still running? I don't know. It's one of Boris's silly ideas. This cable car is so expensive that most people just don't use it. Even locals don't use it. There's no kind of reductions. And yeah, some more sculpture there. That's a new one. I was going to say, where is the weird cloudy one? There's like man exploding a cloud type thing. Oh London, what have you become? I did like these benches you can lie in though. Reclining benches of the future. It is beautiful just sitting and watching the river though. Obviously this isn't about sitting and watching. Sometimes you have to rest. Ouch, my feet hurt. More demon. Oh, sorry, Damien. I just realised where I am. This is the O2 Dome. Well, formerly Millenium Dome. And all of this was car park for this dome. That's crazy. I was just going out. I don't remember this. I don't remember this. This whole place was a car park 20 years ago. That is crazy. I actually wish it stayed a car park, most of it, apart from maybe the lounging seats. There was less marketing bump from a car park. That's the Millennium Dome in its glory, and that's what it begat, I suppose, because the development of that. Abandoned site, I don't know if there's wharves or what there was here. It was very derelict. A job a lot of Damien Hirst for some reason, I don't know why. There's that mermaid over there, it's another Damien. So we're walking past the O2 as it's known now, which everyone else knows and refers to as the Millennium Dome, because that's what it was invented for. It was a large millennium experience. The government lost a lot of money on it. And then the site kind of languished for years. The car park, which is now loads of luxury flats, was just an empty car park. It was just, and you could see all the remnants of, it was a bit like old Olympic sites or exposition centres. It was just, lots of nothing and just rubbish from what was there before. And then they redeveloped it and reopened it as the O2, one of the big event spaces of London. We've got a few more miles to Greenwich. I'm going to see if I can continue any further, but I'll probably stop at Greenwich and get there and back on the DLR. Somewhere along here, I think Blackwall Point, there was a signboard that said Bugsy's Point, but I think it's Blackwall Point, which I think is about there, was where they hanged pirates. There was a couple of places. There's one opposite docks further up the river, but this is one of the places that pirates are hanged. And this is Canary Wharf. Well, the sun's setting on Canary Wharf. The sun never sets on Canary Wharf, it's always open. And this is, I think, referring to the fact that the Greenwich Meridian passes through here. Life's a beach, and then it brings you bricks. It's a brick beach. The yellow one is London Clay, and London Stock it's called. That's why a lot of the buildings are yellow. The red one is from somewhere else. Anyone for golf? Yeah, it's a putting range. And this is bizarre. In the shadow of Canary Wharf, we have golf and roller skating. It's cooler than that. I have no memory of this part of the trip at all. There's some really cool sort of late teenagers doing roller skating, these impressive roller skating in front of the golf putting range. And then this guy wanted to sell me some golf balls. I didn't know how to sell him that I've got the Wilson golf ball in my bag. I've already got a golf ball. I'm not going to talk about Greenwich. The light's failing. Maritime history. There was a palace here. Greenwich Mean Time and the line. There you have it. Yeah, and a big boat. That's pretty much Greenwich. I'm thinking of heading toward New Cross because that's easier for me tomorrow.
That was day 4 of Thames Spring. Thank you to everyone who's liked, commented and subscribed on the series. It means a lot. On the screen now is the previous episode in the series, which will change to the next one when that's released. So I'll see you for day 5.